and welcome into Blue Jays Today, coming to you from the Sports Interaction Studio, where we always have some to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle. And today, guys, we're going to be breaking down the latest Blue Jays, free agents, trades, news, rumors, rumblings, and conversations surrounding, of course, your Toronto Blue Jays. But to help us get it kick-started, we've got a new show over on the Nation Network that one of the hosts is by this guy right here. Please welcome in Dan Riccio, everybody.
What's
Fresh
up?
from Sportsnet to the Nation Network. Welcome in, Dan.
What's happening, fellas? Good to be along. How you doing?
We're doing very good, brother. We're doing very good. I mean, it makes our lives so much easier. One, having you here, by the way, so we're excited to hear your take on a lot of stuff. But two, when the Toronto Blue Jays are not only successful but active. It is one thing to sit here and just blabber on about rumors and rumblings and whatever, but when they actually go out and they actually do stuff, it makes our lives that much easier. And of course, I'm referencing the Dylan Cease signing, which is where I would like to kickstart this conversation. Your thoughts, my friend, when they went out and they gave $210 million to Dylan Cease?
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, like not having to like pull my hair out for the next couple weeks to wonder if the Jays are going to do anything at winter meetings or if they're going to sign anybody. What's the next rumor I got to follow to see if they're still willing to, or that player specifically is going to choose them over somebody else. It's wild to see the Blue Jays get things done early. And that's what I love, I think, most about this. Like, you know what? Okay, we've got to pay at the top of the market to sign Dylan Cease, but this is the guy that we've identified. We like him. He's going to add to our rotation, and he's going to lengthen our rotation, give us more depth, give us more outs if we have injury trouble or somebody, falls off the face of the earth and they just aren't effective anymore, as we see all the time in professional sports. And that's kind of what happened with the Dodgers, right? Like you saw, their bullpen was battered, beaten, and bruised, but they just have so many different outs because they outspend everybody like crazy, and it just gives them so many different options, so many different such a bigger margin for error. And I think that's one of the things the Blue Jays accomplish here while also getting into the upside of Dylan Cease's abilities.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I actually want to tap into that upside right now because, everyone's got their opinions, everyone's got their takes, and there's a lot of, contradicting opinions on Dylan Cease online right now. You're seeing some people out here saying, great deal. I'm one of those people. Nick's one of those people, and it sounds like you're one of those people. I think it's a great deal. Money doesn't matter. This guy's got ace, Cy Young level upside, great strikeout stuff, and if you could fine-tune that command, he could really be effective on the bump. But then there's the other side of things where they're looking just at the 4.55 ERA last year, the walk rate being really high. What are your thoughts on that? Does that concern you at all, bringing in a guy like that for 7 years?
Of course, there's always like the downside, right? I think one of the things the Blue Jays probably look at is the Padres defense was atrocious last year, and the Blue Jays defense is not that. So that's going to definitely help Dylan Cease on the mound. And when I look through my analytics, I'm looking at like 2022, he was great, Cy Young candidate. 2024, he was great, Cy Young candidate. So he's doing the 1 year great, 1 year not so great kind of thing. So 2026, at least he'll be good in the very first year of the deal. But kidding aside, that's just one easy way of looking at it. You look at the strikeout potential. The Jays needed more strikeouts. This guy gets 200 a year. As long as he's healthy, he's going to carry over that strikeout potential. We'll have a little bit of walks in him, but there's just so much to like in the stuff. And the fact that he's not being counted on to be the ace of this rotation just makes it that much easier to like.
I love your point right there about the strikeout stuff, because that was a criticism that I had a little bit walking into last season, is that the rotation, I know that Kevin Gausman used to be that guy, but the strikeout numbers have kind of tapered off as he's gotten older. That's fine, right? If you're going to get the outs, you get the outs. But, at the beginning of that season, we didn't really have anybody in that rotation who was that big strikeout pitcher. And now, walking into 2026, not only do you have Dylan Cease, one of the best swing and miss stuff guys in baseball, but you also have the exciting young Trey Savage, who could be that one day. When you're looking at this rotation as a whole right now, how confident are you in it for the Toronto Blue Jays? And where do you think you're kind of tier ranking them in terms of all of MLB?
Well, I think they've got to be near the top of MLB. You know, like when you go through this rotation and the depth of it, Jose Berrios right now, we'll see what happens with him if they keep him. He's their 5th starter. I mean, even for as much as Berrios kind of fell off towards the end of the year, he still gave the Blue Jays a lot of really good innings through the first half of the season. So I look at adding Dylan Cease and I say, this makes you a top tier rotation in all of Major League Baseball. I can like what the Red Sox did with Sonny Gray, but also still realize that the Blue Jays have now added somebody that has similar strikeout potential as Garrett Crochet, as such unbelievable stuff, such consistent stuff, and has been as durable a pitcher in baseball as you can possibly have since he went down for Tommy John all those years ago. So it's just really hard to find downside in it, knowing that it adds an element to the Blue Jays rotation that they just didn't have enough of.
Yeah. And I like what you brought up Jose Berrios as well. Very similar to Jose Berrios is Dylan Cease, and the fact that every single year he's going to make 32, 33 starts, and he's going to give you your team a chance to win and give you innings, which is obviously important. And Dylan Cease being on a 7-year deal, that feels like it's not only great for just, this right now, this little mini World Series window where you still got a lot of guys, on contract for next year, but it's also great for the future right now. And that's what it feels like the Blue Jays are starting to build. We're starting to think about that next wave, that next future right now. And part of that is Dylan Cease, part of the rotation, but the other part of that is also got to do with Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette is a hot topic right now. People are looking at him. People are looking at Kyle Tucker, and they're asking themselves, well, are the Blue Jays going to get one or the other or both? What are your thoughts right now on the Bo Bichette market? And then maybe some thoughts on, is there a potential upside where they maybe could go get a Kyle Tucker instead?
And also, just to add on to that, does the Dylan Cease signing have anything to do with how they're approaching those two guys?
Yeah, well, I think when I look at the way that this played out for the Blue Jays, obviously you go to the World Series, you play all the way to Game 7, you get all those beautiful home gates that I'm sure had them printing money for the entirety of the fall. And now you can go and play with it in free agency. And they've already done it with Cease. But why not do that again and add another bat to this roster? What's it going to cost to keep Bo Bichette? Is it $170 to $200 million? You've already kept Vladdy Guerrero Jr. You want to keep those vibes around. The one thing about Bichette, I guess, that I really liked what Jimenez did at short through the course of the playoffs.
Right.
And, how's Bo feeling about playing second base? And is that factoring into his decision when the money is going to be there pretty much no matter what? But it's hard not to want Bo when he was hitting bombs in Game 7 on one leg. It's kind of, I think every person in the Jays fan base fell in love all over again with Bo Bichette, with what he was able to do through the injury in the World Series. Yeah. But ultimately, I think Kyle Tucker's maybe a better fit for the lineup. You leave money aside, you add that kind of a lefty bat, another great glove in the outfields. Like, there's just a lot to like about the option of adding Kyle Tucker, that it might be better, but it doesn't have the same, doesn't hit you in the feels maybe as much as Bo Bichette does.
Yeah, 100%. Granted, when Kyle Tucker is, getting MVP votes and showing up in the playoffs, I'm sure that Blue Jays fans will be okay with it. But I guess that's a good transition to, kind of the next question that I had for you. And one of the biggest talking points of this entire offseason, as we've been rumored to be in on Tucker and, of course, Bo Bichette, assuming they can't get both of them, because that would just truly be fantasy land, be insane if they did. But assuming they can't and they have to pick one, how important for you is the camaraderie that Bo Bichette provides? And I suppose, should they let him walk, how much do you think that that's going to impact the clubhouse, the team as a whole?
It's got to have some kind of there's no real number you can put on it. There's nothing you can actually, I can actually say that I know it's going to have an effect. But I know how much of an emphasis they put on that last offseason and how well it worked this year, bringing in character guys like Max Scherzer, and this team just seemed to find another level of maturity that wasn't there in years past. So changing things up, how is that going to affect everything? You can't ever really know exactly how it's going to work. But I do imagine that the Jays front office is doing their due diligence in the character side of things, how these guys might fit in as part of the group. Ultimately, professional athletes, they might be bummed that their buds are going. You see it all the time. I've seen it covering the Vancouver Canucks closely the last couple of years here in Vancouver. Guys get traded, guys get moved. It irks guys, but you have to find a way to get over it, right? Because that's just the business. So ultimately, whatever decisions the Blue Jays make, I think the team does know with what happened last year and the fact that they're already making moves this offseason, that the organization is doing what they feel is best to have continued success on the field.
Yeah, end of the day, go get a World Series, and I won't be mad. I don't really care who's on the roster as long as World Series are coming north of the border. Now, we got a super chat in here from Aaron Collins with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Aaron Collins, asking us a question, so I'll throw it over to you, Dan. Okay, boys, pick two. Bo, Tucker, or Edwin Diaz? Which two would you be taking, Dan? If you had to pick two.
Man, that is tough. It would be fire, though, going to the Rogers Center and having Enter Sandman play as he's coming out. Oh, man, that would be total fire. So, you know what? I'm going to say Edwin Diaz. The Jays desperately need some help in the back of the bullpen. And it's obviously not my money, and I don't work for Rogers anymore, so it's definitely not my money. So I'm going to, I'd just say Edwin Diaz, and man, it hurts, but I'm going to say Kyle Tucker.
I think I would be right there with you, actually, and I think that is, probably the correct choice when you're just talking about a, team roster standpoint and putting the best guys together to win a World Series championship. Now, we got one or two more questions for you here, but you just brought up the back end of the bullpen, and I have been very outspoken about how I do believe that they need to go out and they need to address that. It's just, it feels irresponsible to walk into a season and claim that you want to go and win a World Series and have your closer with a 4.5 ERA. That just doesn't feel right to me. Are you right there with me in feeling like we have got to see some type of move made for that bullpen? Because Jeff Hoffman, whilst he had his incredible moments, might not be the lockdown closer that we need.
It's absolutely got to be a priority. Now that you've added Dylan Cease, as much as getting another bat to this lineup is going to be huge, I think the adding a closer or another just really good arm to the back of the bullpen has to be a part of the equation. There's no other way around it. You saw it in the postseason where Chris Bassett all of a sudden became the setup man.
Yeah.
Or a big part of closing out games in leverage because they just didn't have enough back there. And for as good as Jeff Hoffman was at points, and even how good he looked again at points of the postseason, 4.5 ERA speaks for itself. The troubles he had at different points of the year speak for themselves. And I think the way Ross Atkins answered this question in his end of season avail sort of spoke to it as well, in that he's not guaranteed to be the closer next year. They know that they need to add there, and it has to be a big priority. I don't know if it has to be a big free agent like an Edwin Diaz, as we talked about, but they definitely need more options at the back end of the bullpen.
Thank you.
I would agree. Now, actually, you brought up a name there I wanted to pick your brain about, and now the conversations have kind of died down since they've gotten Dylan Cease, but is there still a possibility there's a reunion with Chris Bassett or Max Scherzer or any of these guys, like you mentioned, big clubhouse names, big personalities? Is there any chance there's a reunion? And if there is there maybe a changing of the role, specifically with like Chris Bassett, where he did look so good out of the pen, like maybe he does maybe a 6-man swing, like Swiss Army knife type of role.
Ross Stripling.
Yeah, Ross Stripling type of role. So do you see that possibly still in the playbook?
I think there's definitely room for it. I heard Max Scherzer on the Nation Network, the Leafs Morning Take podcast, because Max Scherzer, big hockey guy, of course. And he just kept saying like we and our, and it's just this guy, does he have a contract that I don't know about? He's like talking as if he's still a part of the team, but obviously like the Cease contract doesn't really add up to, okay, how's Scherzer going to fit in here now? If you have Dylan Cease, there's not a spot in the rotation there. I think for him and for Bassett, like that veteran presence that they brought last year was huge for the team. I don't know how Bassett feels about it, but I wouldn't mind seeing him pull the John Smoltz kind of a thing and just be a a back end of the bullpen kind of a guy now. Like the stuff really played in the postseason.
Shockingly so. I was surprised that his 93 mile per hour fastball and junk was effective.
it played in the playoffs, and it looked, maybe it was juiced up. He just had the extra adrenaline in the playoffs, but it definitely felt like it played. So I think they are options, but again, I mean, it's got to be, if you're going to be spending big money, it's probably got to be elsewhere, right? And still handle the budget the way that you would. And I'm just not sure I'd overspend to bring some of those options back.
Right. I think that is more than fair. Dan, that is where we're going to leave it with you. But before we have you sign off, we're not going anywhere, folks. We're going to be live for a bit longer. But before we have you sign off, you got a new show, Off the Roster, December 1st. We will see it firsthand. Debut episode. Can you tell the people a little bit more about Off the Roster, just what it's going to look like, what the vibes are like? Get the folks excited here.
Yeah, the vibes are great, guys. Honestly, I've been going through it with Lindsey Dunn and obviously the legendary Cabby Richards as my co-host. We've been going through it this week, really starting to plan some big things for Off the Roster when we launch 10 a.m. Eastern on Monday on the Nation Network YouTube channel, and of course on your favorite podcatcher. I mean, Lindsey and Cab, they're going to bring a lot of what they've done. You saw what Lindsey did around the Blue Jays this year. Just incredible content that she was building out, has built so many relationships in that area. Also still works closely with Raptors 905 and covering the basketball beat. So she's going to bring a lot of expertise there. Cabby, he's going to be in the arenas. He's going to be talking to guys. He's got lots of interviews already lined up as well. So there's going to be a ton of exclusive with pro athletes that you know and love. And I guess for me, I'll be more of the traditional sports take guy. That's me, just amplifying the voice of you, the fan, and, having yelling at people on the Gardner and getting down to Blue Jays games about the Blue Jays and Leafs and obviously the Raptors as well. We're gonna have a lot of fun. It's gonna be a little bit different than what you normally hear, and we hope to bring that each and every day, but also have you join us for a lot of fun through all of it.
Absolutely. And we can't wait to be watching along and joining you guys and working with you guys this next upcoming year. Because Toronto sports, it feels like now with the Raptors starting to look a little good. Maybe not so much the Leafs. We're not going to talk about that. But the Raptors looking pretty good. And the Jays looking pretty good. Feels like there's a lot to talk about for Toronto sports. Dan, thank you so much for tuning in. We're also going to have Cabby on next week. So tell Cabby we said hey. We're looking forward to speaking with him as well.
Will do. It's been a blast, fellas. Thanks for this.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Dan.
Thanks a lot, man. Off the Roster, guys, like he was saying, Nation Network YouTube channel going to be debuting 10 a.m. December 1st. So it is going to be pretty sweet. I actually am looking forward to it quite a bit to just get a sense of all of the Toronto sports as well, because they're just so connected, man. We were actually speaking with Lindsey last night, funnily enough, and she's so excited as well. So it is going to be a good time. Highly recommend that you guys go and check that out. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I think we will be joining them on their show at some points or another, especially as we get closer to Jay season.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, go check it out, guys. The Nation Network YouTube channel. All right, let's talk about your Toronto Blue Jays. So that was obviously, we want to get Dan's thoughts about so far what's happening in the offseason. But what's next for the Toronto Blue Jays? Well, we've been kind of flirting with the idea that obviously we don't think they're done yet. And obviously, there's still Bichette out there. They need to get another bat. They need to go get a back-end bullpen guy. So there's definitely some moves that are going to be coming. Now, there is something interesting that I wanted to talk with Dan with, but we obviously ran out of time. We're talking about, the potential of bringing back Chris Bassett or Max Scherzer. And we can't really do that right now because the rotation looks pretty full. But what if they go out and they actually make a trade off the roster? That's something that came up this week by Ben Nicholson Smith.
That's kind of the latest thing right now, folks. Now that they have Dylan Cease in there, is there the possibility that they could trade somebody else from that rotation, specifically Jose Berrios? That's the name that's been popping up quite a bit, and Ben Nicholson Smith is actually the one that brought this up. He very rarely comes out and says stuff like this unless there is 100% something behind it. And he was on the JD Bunkus show and he said there has been a little bit of speculation. I've heard that the Blue Jays would at least listen to some sort of swap involving Jose Berrios. Makes sense, because when you look over at that rotation right now, okay, you got Gausman, you got Trey Savage, you got Shane Bieber, you have Dylan Cease now, and then also a notable name who isn't there is Eric Lauer.
Right,
And I think a lot of us, certainly myself, want to see Eric Lauer get a lot of opportunities. Then you're not even factoring in the idea of maybe bringing back Max Scherzer or bringing back Chris Bassett.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, right, well, Ricky Tiedemann, I know he's still, a little bit of a ways away, but he's starting to get healthy, throw that thing around again. Is there going to be a spot for him potentially later down the line? Right now, this whole rotation is stacked. I love that it is stacked, but it's suddenly become an area of strength from us, and suddenly an area where you could actually trade one of these guys away, and you'd be okay with it.
Crazy how you add a guy for the next 7 years, and all of a sudden it's like you got a surplus. Like that guy and then Shane Bieber like immedially changed things about this rotation.
Everything, right?
Changed everything, right? So that's a guy that apparently that has been tossed around that they're maybe listening on. Jose Berrios potential trade. What I really liked about this too is, I'm thinking about, again, building the next pillars of the rotation for the Blue Jays moving forward. Jose Berrios was a massive pillar, just like Kevin Gausman was, just like Chris Bassett was for this Blue Jays roster for a long, long time. Well, now after 2026, he's got an opt-out option, and unless he does really terribly, and I think he would opt into that contract. About $48 million still left for the next 2 years. If he did terribly, he'd probably take the money. But if he had a decent bounce back year, like sub 4 ERA, he could easily opt out and go test out the free agent market. It might be his last chance. So I would certainly do that if I was Jose Berrios, especially with how much money these freaking pitchers are getting. So if you are the Blue Jays and you are banking on him to maybe have a bounce back and opt out, then trade him right now. See if you can get anything of value out of him, and then maybe go sign another pillar for the next few years that is guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that ultimately in years prior, Jose Berrios was just such a key piece of this entire rotation. But now, I mean, if you were to lose him to a trade, you'd still be acquiring something else than that. But if you flip that asset for something, I really don't think it hurts you that much. And let's face it, he really didn't do much for us at all in the second half of the season last year. We were perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
He did not have his best season. He had a 4.17 ERA, 166 innings pitched, whip just over 1.3. So certainly not the kind of the 3.5 ERA that we've been, I guess, accustomed to with Jose Berrios, because he just almost does that every single bloody year. That wasn't the case last year. And I think that if you are the Toronto Blue Jays, flirting with the idea of moving on from this guy, potentially using him as a way of flipping for maybe a strong bullpen piece. Or, you know what, okay, you don't want to go out, you don't want to make the crazy big splash of Kyle Tucker. Maybe you could trade for somebody like that, right? We've already seen, hell, Brandon Nimmo was traded away this offseason. That would have been a guy that I could have been interested in. Obviously didn't happen right there, but Jose Berrios should have enough value to warrant something relatively juicy coming back in return. And if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, I mean, I don't think you're going to be missing him too much if you were to get rid of him.
And no offense, like obviously, Berrios has been awesome for us, so awesome for us. But yeah, it's at that time now where he's becoming our fifth guy, and arguably so. If you add in another pitcher like a Chris Bassett or Max Scherzer back, is he now your sixth man?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Now I'm thinking about it right now, okay? You have one more guaranteed year of Jose Berrios. We don't know what's going to happen after that. I'm thinking he'd probably opt out of his contract, but we'll see what happens there. It's tough to say, obviously dependent on how he does. But one more guaranteed year of Jose Berrios. In your opinion, do you, like, next year, if you had to project, would it be a big difference between Jose Berrios or Chris Bassett or Jose Berrios or Max Scherzer? Like, I feel like it doesn't really change a whole lot for me. If instead of Jose Berrios, it's Chris Bassett on a one-year deal, but then on top of that, you also have a nice bullpen piece or somebody else because you traded away Jose Berrios. Yeah,
like effectively Jose Berrios to me at this point in his career is a guy who can go get me 32 starts. And last year he had 31. He just missed his last start with injury. Unfortunate. Oh no. But he gets you 32 starts basically every single season. So I think Chris Bassett could do that. Max Scherzer probably not. So like that, I wouldn't immediately want to just like one for one that right there, because again, Max Scherzer you're only gonna have for 1 year. It's basically the same thing. Like that doesn't make sense. But Chris Bassett, like he's not super old. He's definitely older than Jose Berrios, but maybe a 2-year, maybe a player option. But I would be open to getting somebody who has a little bit more longevity. That's what I'd be wanting to guarantee. Just someone who could fill out my rotation and give me a little bit more guaranteed in just 1 year.
I know that it's year to year and things will change and everything like that. But I'm looking at Chris Bassett's numbers right now. They're eerily similar to Jose Berrios and slightly better, right? He
Right.
had 31 starts to Jose Berrios' 30. He had 170.1 innings to Jose Berrios' 166. He had a whip of just over 1.3, same as Jose Berrios. And the ERA was a high 3. Berrios was a low 4. I mean, last year they were almost the exact same pitcher. So for me, it doesn't really change a whole lot. Okay, if you did want to trade away Jose Berrios, get yourself a nice bullpen piece and then re-sign Chris Bassett. That just feels like a strong addition, in my opinion.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking about it right now. It is interesting to think what his value could be because that player option is kind of tricky, right? You're basically just buying 1 year of guarantee of Jose Berrios. He is coming off his worst season, I mean, other than the 1.5 ERA year that he had with us, maybe second worst season with us. So it's interesting to see what kind of value you can get. At least some sort of middle relief pitcher.
That's what I'm
with
thinking.
some control, like an Eric Swanson. Like,
Sure.
Think about that, right?
And I think that would be reasonable, and I'd actually be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, I want to win the World Series right now, and I think that if you were to go in the route of re-signing Chris Bassett, trading away Jose Berrios, and then picking up somebody like, an Eric Swanson from back in the day, or somebody of that caliber, I think that helps the team more than it hurts the team.
Yeah, I completely guarantee. Now, we talked about this with Dan, but we'll bring it up here as well. Talking about that Max Scherzer quote that he had on Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga, saying that there's unfinished business, and Dan was kind of paraphrasing what Max was saying, was that he was using a lot of we's, and we have a lot of unfinished business. We have to run it back. We. Do you buy into that? Do you read into that maybe, or is he just, I haven't been signed to another team, so I'm still considering myself a Blue Jay? That's at least how I'm kind of reading into it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get all conspiracy theory and think that, like, there's a secret contract or whatnot, but, like, he's still, even though he's technically not a Blue Jay, he's like, that's still my team I'm last with.
Right? I mean, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. I don't think there is a secret contract. I think you would have heard about something like that. But it is certainly interesting to hear that those are, or that's the way that he's referring to himself with this team. And it is a lot of we's, and it is a lot of us's, and all of that stuff. So it's certainly interesting that he has gone in that direction. That's how he's talking about. He might just be a ball player and just like, a clubhouse presence like that. But I could also imagine or believe that there has been some relatively good talks with the Blue Jays front office. I mean, they might have even told him too. I don't know how forthcoming they are with this information, but they might have told him, it's like, hey, we liked what you did. Right. We're interested in bringing you back, but we got to go do our due diligence first with some other people. I don't know if they would say that to him. I'm not sure. I don't know if Max Scherzer, at the end of the day, he is 41 years old and didn't have his best year. So you got to imagine if you're Max Scherzer, like, they're going to want to go and look at other options. Yeah. But he was talking about this stuff after the Dylan Cease signing. And he was still saying we. So it's interesting to know for sure.
Yeah, and obviously, like I mentioned before, like I wouldn't be looking at Max Scherzer as like over Jose Berrios at this point. I mean, he only had 17 starts. He had an ERA of 5.19. He had some great starts in there, and obviously the postseason was awesome. But if you wanted to add this guy on as a little kind of what they did last year, like you're not going to lock you into the rotation spot every time, but like you could be like a nice addition when you're healthy and have that presence in the clubhouse. You're just like an added on thought. I like what the Blue Jays doing and thinking about filling out the 5-man first. And then after that, if you do want to add him in for that, Max Scherzer vibes, then go do that.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, he is a vibe guy. He is a glue guy, right? I mean, you saw how he was reacting in the dugout when all that shit was going down during the World Series. Like, he is that individual. Also very cool, by the way. I was just looking over at his stats right here. He could, if they did want to bring him back, he'd probably get his 3,000th inning with the Toronto Blue Jays, which would be really cool. I mean, not a lot of pitchers can say that they've thrown 3,000 innings before, but if he gets one more year in him, he should theoretically hit that mark. So, I mean, credit to Max Scherzer. That's awesome.
That's incredible. And then obviously he would hit, assuming he could pitch 2 starts, he would hit the 3,500 as well. Strikeouts. That's awesome. That's
insane
cool
stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's move on, guys. We're on the topic of trades right now. Right now, like, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, there isn't a whole lot after the Dylan season. A lot of these conversations right now, but it's been a little bit quiet on the rumor front.
Well, we know that they're going to do something.
We know they're going to do something.
It's just ultimately like, yeah, what direction are they going to go in? And everybody's trying to speculate on it. The trade of Jose Berrios could be one thing, right? That could definitely be, and I could see them going in that direction. Signing Bo Bichette and signing Edwin Diaz, that could be another. I see a lot of you guys in the chat saying, Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, Bo Bichette just signed Bo already. And I'm like,
get Bo.
Totally.
I agree with all of that, right? I think all of these things can be true, and I think that right now probably Ross Atkins is exploring all of these things.
Of course. Any way to make the roster better is what the Blue Jays front office is doing right now. And also you got to consider winter meetings is coming up next weekend. Not this weekend, but the following one. So they could be getting ready for that. And that's why there's all these trade conversations kind of happening right now. Because winter meetings, it's just like the GM meetings except more action. We're going to have all the agents, all the teams, all the executives come together. And usually you see a couple fallout trades happen after the fact. So we're going to be covering that. But before we do, let's talk about a couple trade ideas that could be in the next window for the Blue Jays. Maybe they go get Ketel Marte. I made a video about this earlier this week. I know you wanted to talk about it on the show. There was an idea that the Blue Jays could be going out and getting Ketel Marte. And that reason why that came out, the reason why that came out was because the Blue Jays have checked in on Ketel Marte.
And it sounds like the Diamondbacks are actually willing to get rid of him. Which is kind of nuts, in my opinion.
It's crazy because I don't know what they're trying to do. They have one bad year, and it's like, oh, let's blow it all up. Like, I don't get it. You have Corbin Carroll. Whatever they want to run their organization, let them do it, because I would love a guy like Ketel Marte. Now, the one little interesting nugget is, obviously, he's a second baseman, and I looked up, like, when was the last time he played outfield, because, like, you know, Bo Bichette, if he comes back and you go trade for Ketel Marte, that'd be awesome, but logistically, it's a big headache right there, because he would play second, and then Jimenez has got to play short, right? Where would Bo Bichette go? So what are your thoughts on Ketel Marte? And then we can get to a little bit of a, I guess, roster puzzle.
It would be weird to me if they got Ketel Marte and then also got back Bo Bichette, because you're right. Like, there's just not enough spots in that infield, and Ernie Clement commands a spot now, and you want Addison Barger in there, and Jimenez, even though I don't love it, commands the spot due to the money. Right?
Exactly.
So, like, there's a lot, and then obviously Vladdy will be your first baseman. There's not a lot of spots left, right? You probably have one more spot for an infielder that you can give up, and it's likely going to be the second base bag. Now, I think that the top two options right now are Bo Bichette, and then if you don't get Bo Bichette back, you might consider going and trading for somebody like Ketel Marte.
Yeah.
His contract, to me, is one of the biggest steals in MLB. In fact, it's actually stupid. I don't know how people get guys on contracts like this in today's age, especially somebody like Ketel Marte. The last two seasons, he's got MVP votes both times. In this past year, a 283 batting average and an OPS of 893. Like, that's fucking ludicrous.
Dude, and he's getting, like, MVP votes. Like, last year, in 2024, I'm speaking, he had MVP 3. He was MVP 22 and Silver Slugger, of course. Yeah, he almost had a 900 OPS. I say it time and time again. This is the best second baseman in baseball. He can do it all.
It's undeniable, actually.
He is by far the best second baseman in all of baseball. And what's going to cost a lot if you want to trade for him is going to be because of the contract and his ability to play great baseball. But yeah, the contract, like you're saying, is stupid. You know, this year in 2026 coming up, $16 million. Now, I know that someone comments on my video was like, you're doing an irresponsible job just saying $16 million. That's the base thing because of all these incentives. It was a quick video. I had to get through it all. But yeah, there's incentives. If you're top 3 in an MVP, you'll get an extra $3 million. Great. I want to pay you the $3 million. Be top 3 in MVP.
Oh no, $19 million for a top 3 MVP candidate.
Oh no,
that's really gonna sink us.
That sucks, dude. That sucks. But yeah, like this type of contract, you're gonna be paying up premium talent to go get this.
That's the thing. It's not going to be like there's going to be people commenting down below, Jose Berrios and one other guy for Ketel Marte.
Jose Berrios and Ricky Tiedemann.
Yeah, right. No, it would be a lot, and it would ultimately probably cost you some names that you don't want to give up.
Yeah.
Could Addison Barger go back in a deal like this? Could Ernie Clement go back in a deal like this? Maybe. Right? Like, actually, though, it's going, and it would then be that would be one of the pieces going back. Like, ultimately, Ketel Marte is a proven commodity who has been one of the best second basemen in all of baseball for years now, and at the very least, for the next 2 to 4 years, you have to imagine that he's going to be playing at that caliber. with whichever team that he's on.
Feels like he's getting better.
Genuinely
with age.
though, it actually
insane.
does feel like he's getting better. Like age does not seem to be a factor for this guy at all. So that is the one thing that we would all need to come to terms with. It would require giving up some talent that you probably don't want to part with. And it would also probably mean that Bichette would not be coming back because that would just be a ton, man. You get now Marte on a big deal. Then you'd have to sign Bichette back to a big deal. Look, I love living in fantasy land just as much as the next guy, but that feels unrealistic.
Yeah, Andrew in here is saying you never trade Clement or Barger. That would ruin the clubhouse. And I'm actually kind of with that too. Like, you have such a nice young core of guys, and it's like you saw how important that was to the team. It would kind of suck to see one of those guys go, but if you want to get a guy like this, they're going to be asking for guys like that. So for me, I think, like I said in the video before, this is the fallback plan if Bichette doesn't sign to the Blue Jays, because I can see reality like this. Okay, Bichette leaves. Well, now we got to go and be uber aggressive for Kyle Tucker. Maybe let's go get aggressive and push all the chips in the middle for Ketel Marte. I mean, I like that reality a lot. That'd be a nice fallback plan if Bichette leaves this Blue Jays team.
I also think too, like I certainly hear the argument about losing. Like, okay, like if you trade Barger, that's a big clubhouse blow. But at the same point, for those guys who are remaining in the Toronto Blue Jays clubhouse, what does that say to them when you're going and getting a guy like this?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like it's a holy shit. Like Ketel Marte is coming here, the best second baseman in baseball. We are balls to the wall. Management wants us to win this.
That's true. That's true. I was going to make a comparison too, to be like, well, think about what happened with Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. A little different because you had Varsho and, no offense to Varsho, but it was Varsho and Eric Swanson.
We just didn't have any offense, man.
That wasn't that wasn't it, right? But still, I mean, some people could make the argument like you don't want to ruin the vibes because getting rid of those two guys, the vibes are pretty low that year.
I understand.
It took some time to recuperate.
Yeah, I do think that it's different, and especially like that they did both of those things at the same time. I never understood that. I was willing to trade away one of them, and then they wanted to do both of them and go crazy hard into the defense. That really didn't make sense to me. And then on top of all of that, like the offense wasn't nearly as deep back then as it is right now. Like, let's face it, Barger is awesome. He's not as good as Ketel Marte.
Right.
Like the offense would be getting significantly better with Ketel Marte coming to this team. I'm not saying that I'm actively out here trying to shop, Addison Barger or Ernie Clement or any of those guys. Like, I love them just as much as the next dude. But getting a star caliber person like Marte, who is on a deal for, what is that, 5 more seasons?
Basically, 5 more seasons. Let me check
it is going to cost, and I personally think I'd be willing to give up that cost if you're getting somebody like this back.
Yeah, I would agree. So, guys, let us know your thoughts about Ketel Marte in the comments section. One more kind of bold trade scenario that Blue Jays Nation, shout out to those guys, Ben wrote in here in the article, is looking over at San Diego for a relief pitcher.
Down.
I'm so down, right? It's not just Edwin Diaz of the world that could be available. It could be on the trade market as well. And they bring up this one guy right here, Adrian, and I'm going to butcher his name, Morihone. They really emphasize the hone there. Adrian Morihone over there on the Padres is one of those options that could be available for the Blue Jays. He's ARB eligible for this upcoming season, and then he's a free agent. So he's got 1 more year left, so be 1 done. They might want to dump him and recuperate value. I mean, the Padres are very familiar to making trades. It feels like their entire roster is just acquired via the trade. Like, literally, even their superstar, Fernando Tatis, they traded for back in the day. So they might dump this guy in an offseason to the Blue Jays, and I would be absolutely interested. This guy broke out last year, a 2.08 ERA and a WHIP of 0.896. Whatever way you want to get it done, I don't really care about how you get the bullpen guys. Trade or free agency, go get this guy and get it done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I don't give a shit how you get them, but I just want them.
Yeah.
And this is somebody who is very good at baseball. I see some people in the chat right now bringing up Pete Fairbanks.
Yeah.
Also down for this.
Super.
Like,
let's go.
Ultimately, I keep coming back to this, guys. It's just not, it feels irresponsible. With all of the money that you've invested into this squad, it feels irresponsible to walk in next year with Jeff Hoffman as the closer,
right?
And the bullpen with where it's at right now.
Right.
That it kind of feels loosely like what the New York Mets did last year. With they have this incredible offense, they have a really good bullpen, but they've invested nothing into their starting pitching.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work, right? You got to spread the wealth a little bit here. So unless the offense is dropping 10 a game, eventually we're going to need some bullpen help,
right?
And I do think that ultimately right now that is probably the weakest area of the squad. Now that we went out and we got Dylan Cease, now I'm looking over at the bullpen and going, okay, I think we got to get one, or at least one or two more high leverage guys in there.
Yeah, and this is the year to frickin' do it, man. I feel like a broken record saying this, but Jamie puts it pretty good right here. This was after the Dylan Cease signing. Remember the old days when free agents had no interest in coming to Toronto? Next, he says, yeah, those days are long gone. This is the year you gotta go and you gotta cash in off the hype right now. Everyone, all the players have seen what your team is made of and what caliber of people you are. Get them here now. This is the offseason to build the next window. Like I said, for the next 4, 5, 6, in Dylan Cease's case, 7 years. Get it done. This could be the offseason that we remember for a very, very long time, ladies and gentlemen.
I think what really puts it in perspective for me is zooming out a little bit to just like 2 years ago when the whole conversation was, is it Bo or Vlad? We can only ever have one. We can't possibly have both of them. So which one are they going to pick? And that was the conversation in and amongst, here, but also, all Toronto media and analysts and fans for a long period of time. They're only ever going to be able to get one. Well, they got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on a massive contract for $500 million. They just went out and got Dylan Cease. They're still paying George Springer. They're still paying Kevin. And now it feels like, well, we're guaranteed to get one of Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker. Like, just think about how much has changed in the outlook of this management and their capability, their willingness to go and spend money in the last 12 months.
Right.
We went from thinking, we might have to let Vladdy walk to now we're going to get Vladdy and maybe Kyle Tucker and maybe Bo Bichette as well. Yeah. And also Edwin Diaz. Things have changed. Jamie Campbell is onto something. Things have changed.
Bro, just think about, I thought about this too the day we signed Dylan Cease, just literally 2 days ago. How unfazed I was by the fact that we just dropped $210 million on a pitcher. It was bound to happen. Because it was expected to happen. And in years prior, it was always like, please, please, please. Oh, another one off the board. Oh, another one off the board. We just went out and just said, all right, here you go. And guess what? It's still November. There's a lot of time left to go make some more moves, and get ready, folks, because those more moves are coming and more live streams will be coming for us. I should be expecting playing more Rock Raiders, and you tap me on my shoulder saying, we got Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette. It's coming soon, man.
It is going to be coming soon. I was very surprised at how quick they were. But I guess that's just indicative of how they are approaching this entire offseason. There is no messing around. They will be going. They will be getting more individuals, whether it be through trade, whether it be through just outright signing them. We are now going to get to the question portion of this live stream. So if you have any interest in asking us a question, I know that there's been some questions in the chat that we've sadly missed, so I apologize for that. But there's a link in the description to go to our mailbag where you can submit anything that you want. And should we like it, we will answer it. We got one right here from Drew Schneider. Holy shit, he wrote a novel.
You did, but it's cute. I actually really like this. So, Bo Bichette, if you're out there, listen to this question. Hey boys, first of all, love this show. Shout out for Medicine Hat, Alberta. Shout out Medicine Hat, Alberta.
That's a place?
That's a place, dude. Alberta's got some crazy names, and same with BC. I love it. I got some wild names.
That is a wild name of a place right there. But shout out to Medicine Hat.
And also shout out to Drew Schneider. He was saying he had his firstborn child. My first child born New Year's Day 2024. Now my wife are huge Blue Jay fans, and we both agreed if we were to have a boy that we were going to name him Bo. Bo Levi Schneider, first one born in Medicine Hat. Love it. Here's my question. I'm looking for a proper avenue to get a hold of Bo Bichette and send him a picture of my son, and hopefully he could sign it for us. Anyways, go Jays, go. Let's kick some Yankee ass again. Let's go, Drew Schneider. Shout out to you, and shout out to your wife, and shout out to Bo Levi Schneider. Hey, Bo Bichette, if you're out there, someone clip this and send it to him. We got a guy named Drew Schneider from Medicine Hat, Alberta, that would love to send you a picture of his son and get it signed by you. He's named after you.
Literally awesome. Named his kid after you. Blue Jays Today community. There's 512 of you right now in this live stream. Get to work, folks.
Let's go.
Who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows Bo Bichette? We have somebody that's got to get a picture signed. And I mean, that'd just be so awesome, right? If you're Bo Levi Schneider right there, you have no fucking idea what's going on. But a couple years later, Dad's going to tell you a real cool story about how you got your name and just the overall signing of that photo. Of course, we can make it happen.
Hey, let's make it happen here, guys. We also got another question here from Drew Gamer saying, I wasn't expecting Cease at all. He just feels like the type of pitcher that had too much inconsistency ERA-wise for Ross' taste. Ranger Suarez felt like more of a Atkins signing, and I do agree with you, and especially I thought they would go the lefty route this time instead of the righty route, but either way, he's a Blue Jay. I didn't think Cease would get $200 million, but what this signing represents. Okay, so he says Ross wanted to make sure he got a guy before the cupboard was empty. Yep, absolutely. No more being too late and left with nothing. If Ross wouldn't overpay for Cease at this point, then nothing will stop him. I wouldn't even be surprised if he got Tucker for $460 million at this point. He doesn't really have a question, though. So in your opinion, does Dylan Cease, that's what he says right here, I don't really have a question. In your opinion, does Dylan Cease have the best facial hair in baseball? He can rock all kinds of different styles. I did see he was doing the little mustache curl thing with the beard one time. He had the beard, then he had the mustache.
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I'm looking at him right now. I got it up. I don't love necessarily the full beard.
The full beard.
I think it looks
shaggy.
a little scruffy.
Yeah.
It looks a little scruffy. It looks a little. It's just a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But when we see the mustache and then the clean shaven with the mustache, I mean, that looks pretty sexy.
Yeah, I like the mustache. The mustache is cool with him. And I think last year, I can't tell if the one at the very top women with the short hair is, or no, where was
Right
it?
here?
That one. Is that a more recent one?
It's got to be because he's with the Padres.
Yeah.
So that must have been in the last year or two.
Yeah, I like that look. That's a cool look for me. I think he's got to rock that. Especially like you got guys like Bieber on the team, right? And he's rocking the mustache. I think they got to be rocking the mustache.
Well, I think that might just has become our calling card.
Yeah.
Right, you got David Schneider right there,
right?
Who's kind of been the pioneer of this whole thing,
right?
Now you're getting Dylan Cease in. You get, like you're saying, Shane Bieber. If some of the other lads want to start growing them out and going full mustache mode, like I mean, that would be kind of awesome.
Yeah, Barger, I feel like can't grow a facial hair. I feel like I can't picture him with it. He's got to give it his best shot.
I think he's got some scruff. I don't know if he can go full blown
it's just,
mustache.
It's just scruffy, you know.
It's kind of like ours, man. It's just it's not
fully
as,
there.
It's not as thick as it could be. Dylan Cease, though, I mean, it is freaking thick.
It's thick. Yeah, it's definitely thick. So yeah, boys, it's time to grow out the mustaches. We got to represent for the next year. This one coming in from Lionheart70. Speaking of Dylan Cease, saying I like the Dylan Cease signing and I believe he'll fit in right away. Has Blue Jays today, speaking to us, heard of any indication rumors that he's not well liked in other clubhouses? Maybe that's why the Jays didn't go after Framber. I don't think so. Actually, I think he might be genuinely liked. I think I've seen him before, kind of around Chris Bassett, hanging out with him and like those kind of guys, and Bowden Francis. So I wouldn't be. I haven't heard anything. I wouldn't be shocked.
In fact, I've heard the opposite.
I've heard the opposite.
I've heard the opposite. Shout out to our buddy Aaron Ben Rose on Instagram. He actually made a short about this recently. One of the weird hobbies that Dylan Cease has, weird habits, is he's a beekeeper. And he got into that apparently in 2020 with his father. So they keep bees and they get a shitload of honey. Then he goes and he brings out honey, gives it to all of his teammates.
That sounds like a good. That's great
exactly.
For the team.
Right? Are you kidding me? Right? It's like some literal like straight from the source like elite honey. That would be awesome. I mean, I'm never gonna. That's just one of those weird things that I would really appreciate. I would not expect it, but I'd really appreciate. I'd be like, okay, well, I guess we're
some honey.
We're making honey related stuff now.
Honey glazed chicken, you know what I mean? Throw a little bit of honey in that action.
I mean, 100%, right? So from what I've heard, that is not the indication that I've gotten, and I do believe that Dylan Cease is kind of well liked amongst his teammates. We will obviously see, and I imagine more stuff about that will come out later. But if I'm getting honey on the regular, I think I would like it personally.
Absolutely. Also, let's give a quick shout out here, everybody. We have some more questions. I saw some more of you guys throwing in some questions just now, so I'm going to bring that up in just a moment. But before we do, let's give a shout out to Sports Interaction, everybody. This podcast is presented to you by Sports Interaction. Sportsbook and casino, every game is your game when you bet with Sports Interaction, Canada's homegrown sports book. I was actually trying to talk to Sports Interaction and get them to make some lines for us during all this offseason, saying, can we get some like predictions on where guys are going to end up? Because that would be pretty damn cool. But they also got some crazy wild other bets on here, guys. Like there's some crazy stuff like the winning state. You can predict which state will win the World Series. Like you could be like a team from New York, a team from California, a team from Texas. Yeah.
Also bullshit that there's no Canada.
There's no Canada. It would just be any other state, I guess.
But we're not a state. I don't even know if we qualify. That would be a weird one because if Blue Jays won, you bet that. Do you win? Would you fight on that? I would wonder if Sports Interaction how they go about doing that.
Mm-hmm. I know. I agree. Now you could also pick some other stuff too, like American League winner. Blue Jays are only third favorites right now to win the American League. I think that number has actually jumped up after they got the Dylan Cease signing. But you guys tell me, are the Yankees the favorites?
I think
more
that's
than double.
Crazy.
Dude, the Yankee hype and aura is gotta die. Because like
understand it.
I'm losing my words because I don't understand the hype. Like they play sloppy baseball, sloppy defense. They're on a budget this year. They might not even get back Cody Bellinger. Why are the Yankees twice as likely to go and win the American League, according to sports books, than the Blue Jays? I just don't buy it.
I don't really buy it either, man. I mean,
I'm gonna look at
I'm looking at their roster right now, and it is very good. They are going to be a very good team, and should they get Garrett Cole back, I mean that's going to be a massive boost for them, certainly. But if they lose Bellinger, that's going to be a big time blow. I don't know, man. Like how many times are you going to get that 944 OPS from Stanton again?
Yeah,
are you going to get that again?
Yeah, like eventually his legs are gonna fall off. They're already almost off, and
I know that Aaron Judge is the greatest hitter of all time, but
that's it.
Like, is he gonna do that again? Eventually, it's like when is the fall off gonna? And even when he does do that, you still aren't winning the American League.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I just don't get it. He wins MVP, and you get smoked by the Blue Jays, and I don't really. The bullpen's okay. Like, I don't love it. Like, the rotation, people are comparing, like, our rotation to their rotation. Like, don't get me wrong. I love, Max Fried and Cam Schiller is going to be awesome, and it's going to be super cool to see what he does. He kind of did a Savage, right? And then Luis Heel, like, is there upside there from him? Like, there's exciting stuff.
It is exciting. And then Cole, Rodon, Schmidt, when they come back, that would be elite.
But, like, the Blue Jays were 2 outs away from winning the World Series, and they're gonna get even better. So the rotation's stacked. They got to fix the bullpen. Once that's fixed, like we're a better team than them. So
I just don't understand why it's so dramatically favoring the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Like the way that I look at it is there should be 3 pretty strong favorites for the American League Championship. Those 3 should be New York, Seattle, and Toronto. Yeah. But I think that their odds should all be, within spitting distance of one another.
Yeah.
I think that the Yankees should be right down there with the Blue Jays and the Mariners. Right. I don't really see why they're, like to your point, 2 times more likely than the Jays to win. That doesn't make any sense to me. No, they should be right there with Seattle, right there with us. And frankly, it's just it's either disrespect to the Jays or it's some blind faith for the Yankees. I don't really understand it.
Yeah, I don't understand it. But if you guys are feeling like we're feeling and you want to toss some dollars down on Blue Jays winning the American League again, then you can go to Sports Interaction Sportsbook and Casino, because they got you covered by pitch live betting and easy deposits and payouts. Every game is your game when you bet with Sports Interaction. Go to sportsinteraction.com/BJN. That's how you open up an account with them. It also tells them that you came through us, so that's super cool and it'll help out the boys. Ontario only, 19 plus. Please play responsibly. We got another question here from Luke Y, talking about Bo Bichette right here. And I was thinking about bringing this up too, and I'm glad you're bringing it up. How big of a factor do you think the shortstop or second base question is for Bo when it comes to signing with the Jays? Like, the reason why I was thinking about it is because I'm starting to look at Bo Bichette entirely different now. He knows he's not a great defender. Like, whether he plays second or short, like, you're going to get the defense or whatnot. And I really don't think it's going to factor in financially whether you play shortstop or second base. You're paying him for one reason only, and it's get hits, right? You're not paying him to play short or second. That should change how the contract looks.
I don't think it should. It really, the question is going to come down to if another team is looking at him as a big-time shortstop and willing to pay him more for it.
But who would want to give him the shortstop?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I
that's
really
the thing.
don't know.
If you want Bo Bichette, you're not getting him for his defense. You're getting him for his bat. So, that's why I feel like it doesn't really matter. And I think he's got to be well aware of it at this point.
You would
he's
think
not
there's
the best defender.
I mean, if he has and this is no disrespect to him, but just any ounce of self-awareness, you have to understand that. Well, Andres Jimenez is just better than you at that spot.
Okay.
And you're a much better hitter than him.
You're one of the best. I will say this. You're the best fundamentally sound hitter in baseball. Like, you are. So own your strengths, dude. So I personally, I don't think it does matter, actually.
Yeah, I would find it hard to believe if he is like really hard set on just being the shortstop.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I think that honestly the Toronto Blue Jays might be in a spot where they should consider moving on from him.
You got a good opportunity to ride with Jimenez defensively.
Yeah, like that's why you got him.
Yeah.
I don't love that you have him now, but look, the one thing that he's got is he's got great defense, and if you're going to get any value out of that contract, then you need to play him where he is strongest, and that is right there in the middle of that infield. So I hope that it doesn't impact anything with Bichette, and I hope that he has come to terms with, or is coming to terms with the fact that probably going to be a second baseman and probably maybe even a DH later in his career.
Right, exactly. And Kay Flower Smith says in here, and I echo her thoughts completely, he's a smart, mature young man, and honestly, I don't think he cares what position he wants to play. That's like, Bo knows what he is. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. You pay me $200 million to get hits, that's what I'm gonna
I don't really understand the whole ego thing that comes into like I gotta be this position or whatever, what have you, right? Like I remember that whole thing. I believe it was Devers, and there was some big with Alex Bregman and everything. I mean, for me,
go ahead.
I just like you're still starting in the baseball team.
Yeah, you're a starting player.
Like you're going to be a starting player here. Like what is the big difference between you playing shortstop or second?
Yeah, I think for Devers' case specifically, it's kind of similar, but not as similar to Anthony Santander, where he said like I need to be in the field to get my mind off my at bats and stuff like that. It helps me like stay in rhythm because like when you're DH, like you're mentally just sitting in your last at bat for the next hour or 40 minutes or so. So like that's that case. But yeah, I mean, when they moved him over to first base, they were like, he was also thinking like, what the hell? Like, okay, well, you're in the field still. Like, well, what does it matter what position you play? If you play bad, that's their fault. They moved you here. You know what I mean? Like that's not on you, buddy.
I just don't really understand it. I could see feeling slighted if you got moved down in the lineup a bunch. But if you're still...
But that means you're playing bad.
Exactly. But if you're still starting in the game at, a defensive position, okay, I'm still a starting player here. Yeah. So I don't know. I've never really understood that, why guys get so tied to one position, but I don't really feel like that's going to be the case with Bichette, and I think that he's got to know. He must have had some conversation with his agent in understanding that, well, we may need to move on here.
And that's totally fine. And look, no one's going to pay you more or less money, like I said, so it doesn't, in my opinion, really matter. We got one more question here from Elliot Perrin, kind of summing up our big conversation for this podcast, which was, is there maybe a potential trade with a Jose Berrios coming up if we're going to get another pitcher? That's what Elliot's kind of talking about right here, saying, since Scherzer and Bassett are seen as more prominent members of the 2025 clubhouse, I guess vocally you mean, in like their presence, could you see Berrios trade followed by a signing of Scherzer or Bassett? Like if they trade Berrios, it probably it doesn't really matter when, but it would probably be after they go get a guy, because then they can feel like, okay, we secured this asset, now we can go get it off. But I guess if you're going to go get Scherzer or Bassett, you've already had those conversations, so you know they're going to sign. But it doesn't matter either way. But it could be a move that could happen.
I think so. And I think the more that I think about it, it makes a lot of sense. You do have a lot of players right now in that starting rotation, and there's still more guys that you want to add to it. And there's still guys right now that won't even be getting all the opportunities. And I am looking at Eric Lauer when I say that. So sure, if there is some type of bullpen piece out there that you like better than having the depth of Jose Berrios on this team, I think that you shoot that shot, and I think that you feel real good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I see this comment in here, this question asking, yo, what's up, boys? Who do you think we're going to get? Sign Tucker or Bo? I still think Bo's coming back. I've already bet my life on it.
Yeah, it feels like the most likely is definitely going to be Bichette there. Granted, if they want to do Kyle Tucker, I would be over the moon about it. I also saw somebody in the chat saying, did you guys see what Hal Steinbrenner said about the Toronto Blue Jays? We'll kind of leave it right here because this is
I did.
a really good thing. I made a short about this just 2 days ago or what have you. This was awesome. And this is why I disagree with all of the stuff where you got Yankees favorited to win the American League. Even Hal Steinbrenner understands that shouldn't be the case, or that's not the case. We beat him so bad, we kicked their ass so good that he's quite literally rethinking what it means to create a baseball team and to have a successful roster. He came out and said, I think balance in life is everything. Like, this dude's fucking, like going deep down the rabbit hole, reflecting on life right now after getting spanked by Toronto. They slugged the ball too. It's not just putting balls in play. They definitely slugged the ball, hitting strikes hard, particularly in the air. Not that you're trying to hit it over the fence, but in the air, statistically speaking, the results speak for themselves. You have a better chance of success when you do that. Toronto does all that stuff. He goes on to say, you can't simply be a slugging home run team, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, because that's how they model their entire roster off of.
Exactly. That's what I mean when you say, like, this guy's literally rethinking everything right now. He is rethinking everything. They had a great year. I'm curious to see next year how well they do with that roster, assuming it stays mostly intact, but they're a great team. They definitely played better than us.
There you go.
They slugged better than us. They hit the ball and put it in play better than us, and they pitched better than us, and that's why they won. So honestly, shout out to Hal Steinbrenner for keeping it real. I mean, I certainly appreciate that he has the self-awareness to come out and to say that, and he's not burying his head in the sand. He knows what happened.
Listen,
we played better.
Listen, the Blue Jays slapped everybody who's a baseball fan or thought they know what the game of baseball in the face when they came out, and they didn't slug a lot of homers. Yeah, they had power, and we hit a lot of homers in the postseason, but we put the ball in play a shitload, and now everybody's reverting on that whole thing. Remember a couple years ago, I mean, even last year, we were saying, what wins in the postseason? Home runs. Home runs. Everyone was saying it. Everyone believed in it. We saw something different this year. Blue Jays changed baseball. I genuinely think that. That's not a clickbait title. I literally think they genuinely changed the game of baseball, and teams are going to start copying what the Blue Jays are doing. And I think that, like, now that we have this momentum, we got to win now before other people start catching on. 100%. And getting the talent.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning in on this Friday's edition of the Blue Jays Today Show. We're going to be back with a video coming out tomorrow morning, and then obviously tons of coverage next week as we get closer to those winter meetings. Expect more rumors, more rumblings, more things to start happening, whether that be trade, whether that be signing. Stuff is coming down the pipeline, guys, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, guys, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. If you're rewatching it, hit that hype button as well. Also, $4 a month to become a YouTube member. Shout out, thank you to all of our current YouTube members. You guys are absolutely amazing.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And as always, go Jays, go!